red dots are better. So I pretty much gave away the entire video just in a little intro there, but essentially red dots are better objectively in nearly every single scenario imaginable. Now there are a few exceptions to that rule, but in general for even relatively experienced shooters, unless you're pro, red dots are going to be better. And we're going to look at the data because there's quite a bit of data out there for it. And then we're also going to talk about the advantages of the red dot. But the facts don't care about your feelings. If you're gun Amish, that's good for you. You know, good for you. This is America. You're welcome to continue to use iron sights. But in 2024, red dots are the way to go. Okay, a huge shout out to Aaron Crawford. He did a ton of research on this and really went into depth, and I'll put a link to his paper, his white paper, in the description below. We're going to start off by looking at some of his data. So essentially he took a couple different scenarios where he took shooters with little experience, a little bit more experience, law enforcement, put them in different zones, and essentially this is the plot that he shows iron sights versus red dots. So in this plot you see the miniaturized red dots here on the left and the iron sights on the right. And the miniaturized red dots, so there's 4 different bars you'll see. There's total shots fired, and this is an aggregate of all of these different scenarios of all the different skill levels. You put them all into one. This is the summary plot. You can go read through the different scenarios and what they were up above on your own. I don't want to get into that because this is the gist of everything. So total shots fired, total hits, and you don't see a huge difference between iron sights and miniaturized red dots, or red dots essentially. He calls them miniaturized red dots because they're not the big ones that go in rifles. And then the total critical hits, that's where you see a massive difference with red dots, is they tend to be more accurate. And then you see total misses higher with the iron sights. In this plot, he talks about the different experience level of how much experience people had with iron sights versus red dots. And the military had a little bit more experience with red dots. Law enforcement had more experience with irons, and then average just shooting years, more people in this study had previous experience with iron sights than did red dots. However, in the study, everybody in aggregate did better with the red dots. So that should go quite a bit to show you that according to the data, red dots are better. We also, rather than just actual scenarios and zones under pressure, they just also took just raw targets, the IDPA zone scoring target. I'll show that here. And then you can see in this plot, figure 1, hits by site type and stage. So they did 4 different stages at various distances and round counts. And you can see in every single stage, without exceptions, the red dots outperformed the iron sights. So you can hate on red dots all day long, but they are better performance for the vast majority of individuals. Okay, now the one exception where red dots and irons essentially are kind of the same is in professional shooting. And here's this plot here. This is from the United States Practical Shooting Association, and they have an absurd amount of data on this. And in various different stages and various different competitions that they did, here's the data between their red dots and their irons. And as you can see, honestly, it's about 6s, except for, you know, within the weeds, you know, a couple of them, well, there was one that was like irons were better. Okay, great, awesome. But for the most part, they're 6s. And the reason I think this is because when you spend 10,000 hours of training, no matter what kind of thing you're doing to train, you can train good enough with the irons that you can overcome the disadvantages of the iron sights. So if you're not putting 10,000 hours into training pistol shooting, red dots are going to be better. And so I'm going to make a list of a couple reasons why. So the very first reason I'm going to say is, and they're no particular order, these are just advantages. The very first one is that it's target focused. So rather than focusing on your handgun, you are focused on your target. And you know, people don't really understand the advantages of that. In Aaron Crawford's paper, he talks about the psychological effects of being under stress, and what the adrenaline, cortisol, what all your hormones do, what the actions to the brain, the constriction of your eye, of narrowing and focus on a specific thing. And if you think about it, we have thousands of years of evolution of us focusing on our target, whether it's a wolf, saber-toothed tiger, somebody else trying to kill us, all early weapons, whether that's spear, target focus, bow and arrow, target focus, throwing rocks, target focus, everything for millennia has all been target focused, and all of a sudden firearms come along and it's weapon focused, not target focused, because you're focused on your irons on your weapon. Now, if you're a pro, you can out-train that. But for all of us mere mortals, the red dot is going to help with that natural desire to stay focused on the target, and just presenting a red dot, that's going to help a ton. Okay, the other thing is it's a single focal plane. You're only focusing on one focal plane, which is the target. You're no longer focusing on your front sight and lining it up with your target and your rear sight. So it's a single focal plane. You're lining one thing up rather than three. And so it tends to be a little bit faster for people who don't have 10,000 hours of experience. Okay, the third reason I'm going to put is long range engagement. So red dots help focus on a single point at much longer distances. So especially for law enforcement, or any sort of distance shooting, red dots are going to help you because it's a single point. You're focused just on that. Okay, a fourth reason is low light shooting. They've done a lot of research in Aaron Crawford's paper. He talks about this, where they looked at sights that were either tritium or glow in the dark, and they found that it didn't help a whole lot even in low light scenarios. Whereas a red dot, you see the dot and it helps in those low light scenarios. So that's another advantage. Okay, the last reason I want to put is it's psychologically superior. It is more intuitive. Like I mentioned, we've evolved to be target focused, to focus on one single point. And under stress, it's easier to just spot out a red dot. And that was shown in Aaron Crawford's paper as well. Essentially, overall, the gist of it is, for mere mortals, if you're not pro, red dots are going to be better for you. They do take a little bit of time, a bunch of presentations to get used to it. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but overall, you're going to shoot better with a red dot. Now, the exception to that is, as we saw in the data, if you have tens of thousands of hours, or 10,000 hours, thousands of hours shooting rounds down range, and you have trained to the very maximum of your ability to sight in a red dot, to sight in iron sights, then good for you. Awesome. Stick with whatever works for you. Now, at the end of the day, if you choose to be gun Amish and still continue to use iron sights, I'm not going to judge you at the range. Red dots are expensive. Okay, probably the biggest drawback that people mention is what if fails, and that has happened. And in Aaron Crawford's paper, he actually even talks about it. They did have failures on the range, so there can be the red dot failure or the battery failure. So as far as red dot failures go, you're going to want to get a reliable brand. He said there were two brands that they did, and specific models that they didn't see any failures. So one was the Trijicon RMR. That thing's practically bulletproof. They never had any failures. The other one was a Leupold Delta Point Pro. That one, which is this one right there, they never had any failures. As far as batteries go, they tried various major brands. The ones that they never saw any battery failures were Duracell, with the batteries rocking back and forth just as fast as the red dot. So get a reliable battery, don't cheap out, because it's just important. Okay, and if everything comes hits the wall and it does fail, that's what you have these backups for. Irons that you can line up those, co-witnessing your sights, and then you're good to go. Even if it fails, then you have a plan B. Okay, guys, I hope that helped a little bit more of understanding of why I personally prefer red dots, why they are objectively and statistically better in most scenarios and for most people. But at the end of the day, this is America, and you are welcome to have whatever opinion you would like to have on red dots, and put whatever the heck you want on your gun, maybe even something crazy like this. Okay, guys, as always, thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Okay, if you wonder why I haven't done anything in here, is because for the past like 2 months, well, for the past like 3 months, I've either been moving and been crazy, or I've been working between 70 and 80-hour work weeks. And when I'm home and my kids are awake, I'd rather spend time with them than with you guys. No offense to y'all. I love y'all. You do great. Thank you for watching my videos. But my kids are a little bit more important, and so my family as well. So, that should be coming. Hours should be chilling out a little bit more here, and so I should fix this lighting better than having these dang Ryobi lights lighting things up. And so we should be making some progress here pretty soon. Anyways, thanks for your patience.